recording is in progress, and asking everyone to let us know if you can approve the January meeting minutes,
I move to
if
approve.
you've had a chance to look at it.
I
Hi,
move-
Jessica.
I move to approve them.
Thank you. Do you have a cold?
Yes,
Oh my God.
it's okay.
What else could happen? How's your baby? Is she healthy?
She's okay, thank you.
Good. Okay. Thank you for joining us. All right, so you moved. Do I have a second? Anyone? Second the motion to approve the
I
minutes?
second.
Thank you, Leah. Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah. Okay, all who say yes to approve the
Aye.
minutes? Aye. Any
Aye.
nays?
Hi.
Any nays? Okay, then the minutes have been approved. So at 8:45, we're going to have Barbara Lanier from the American Jewish Committee join us to tell us about what we've learned, what they learned from the webinar in terms of what people want more than that. What else do they want? And what do they think of the webinar? So we have a few minutes before then, and I thought we could use it to look at the scope of work and see where we stand and and then talk later about next steps. Have you had a chance to look at the scope of work?
Nomi, before we jump in to do that, could you spell Barbara's name for me for the minutes?
Yes, I'll email it to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So the scope of work, anyone have any comments about it? Things that jump at you that we need to attend to? We can walk through it later on in order to make sure that we're covering all the points. But what jumped at me is that we promised it that in December we would announce a webinar, which we did, but we haven't done a survey of the village. And I have to apologize once again in public to Jessica for having jumped over it in order to go on with a webinar. But the webinar will teach us what else we want to teach, what else we want to provide. I just spoke to Barbara. She is pretty clear about what people really want in terms of follow-up. And the AJC may be able to provide us some of those tools. And then the other thing that jumped at me is, so what I want to propose is that we offer the webinar link to the village. Only about 20 village residents attended the webinar, though we had about 100 participants. And she'll tell us all about what that is, what it turns out to be, because apparently 98 screens, but probably more people were on, more than one person was on a screen. So the estimate is of 120, which is about the number of people who registered, but only a fraction of them from the village, our village. So what I want to propose is that we offer the link to everyone in the village. We offer them the resources that was sent to every one of the participants, and then ask what other things they would like to do or to learn. And the things I would like to think about, action items, what kinds of projects we can each take. And let me just say that I envision the task force is to be, what is it called? Sunrise, sunset, to be sunset, is to be wound down by June. So the question is, what do we want to do as a task force between now and then? And do we want to each of us continue on our own project of interest? For example, I'm very intrigued by the idea of encouraging local libraries to exhibit books that have to do with American Jewish history, not unlike Black History, Black History Month, which in our case would be in May. May is American Jewish History Month, and we have some models of what local libraries have already done in the past. So can we encourage Chevy Chase Library, the Kensington Library to do the same, and perhaps to offer a reading either to children or adults from one of those books? So that's a project that I would be interested in pursuing. And there may be some others that any of you might be interested in going ahead with, either as part of the task force or beyond. My thinking is that we can be a formal group, but sometimes it's hard to comply with the required meetings and the reportings. And so we can work individually without being tied down to a task force and the schedule. And that will liberate us from having to attend meetings, for example, unless we need them. So in short, that's kind of my vision for the next few months. And there are other projects that we can go over after we hear from Barbara, and I'll ask if any of you are interested in joining me in some of them, or in taking up other projects that you can do on your own. So I don't know, it's 8:42. So does anybody have any comments about the scope of work, the ideas that you want to bring forth to going ahead with the task force? Any comments that you want to share with us?
This is Marty. Hi, guys. I would really like us to have something, Michael, this comes to you, in the monthly newsletters that has information on how to report not just an anti-Semitic incident, but any kind of bigotry to you. I think probably, make it more general, but from us, specifically anti-Semitic incidents, because there have been so many of them. Not in Martin's Editions, thank God, but we've had them in the past here. So, I would like a little box or something in the newsletter every month. But here's how to report this to you. Here's how to report it to the local police. Here's how to report an incident to the AJC. And then, just sort of the information on how to report this. And maybe a little, article of the month or video of the month or resources, sort of like a standing piece in the newsletter, for anybody who's concerned about this. I think that would be really good information. I also like the idea of having some how-tos. How do you interrupt the stuff? How do you intervene without having it escalate? But that's a second issue. The first issue is just, make it easy for people to report it.
Yeah. Anybody else have some ideas that you want to put forth that we can go ahead with?
Barbara just joined, so I think we should hear from Barbara.
Okay. Oh, good. Thank you. Hey, Barbara. She's muted. Barbara, are you muted?
Sorry about that. No, I was going to say, why don't you go ahead and finish up what you were doing, and I'll just wait until you're done.
Actually, we were filling in the time, waiting. Not that you're totally prompt, but we had a few minutes between our business meeting and the next step. So it would be really good to hear from you, and then that'll help us plan ahead.
Great. Okay, well, hi, everybody. I am Barbara Liner. And Sue Stoloff-Weiss asked me to come to the meeting tonight. She was unable to come. following the meeting that we had on the 16th with the neighborhood group in the surrounding neighborhoods. I want to say first that you guys did an amazing job bringing people into this. It was a Sunday night, wasn't it?
No, I think it was midweek.
It was midweek. So,
Yeah.
you know, it was a midweek for a lot of families. That's a nearly impossible thing to do. But we had 98 screens. And so we're estimating that we had about 120 people. That is very impressive. So whatever you all did to advertise this and to create the compelling environment to be a part of this, you really succeeded. So well done.
Good, thank you.
So that said, we did generally with to get a real sense of good feedback that it gives us some legs to move forward. We like about 50%. 50% of the attendees to complete a survey. We had 20 surveys completed, and so it was well below what we would want in order to get a more well-rounded perspective on how people felt. But the people who did answered thoughtfully, and so I can share with you how they did answer. Any questions or anything up to this point?
No, not from me.
Okay. How many people are here, by the way? I'm seeing we have 10 people. Well, hi everybody. Let me change my view. There we go. More people. Okay. I just had the speaker view. So okay, so are you familiar with the survey questions? Okay, so there were basically 3 questions. The first question was, after listening to the I'm referring to my other computer here, that's why I'm looking away. After listening to the presentation, I have an understanding of what anti-Semitism is and how it manifests today. And so, so it was on a Likert scale, as you know, of 1 to 5. And out of the 20, people responded to that overwhelmingly positively. We had 18 out of 20 answer with a 3, 4, and a 5. 16 answered with a 4 and a 5. So that means that 16 out of 20 people answered gave a very positive response to saying that they learned something. And then another 2 was a little bit less positive, but still positive. There were 2 people who answered that with a 2, out of 1 to 5 with a 2. So I would say that we had 18 out of 20 people who said that they felt they gained knowledge about anti-Semitism. The second question is, I learned things from the presentation that I did not know before. So again, we had 15 people answered that in a very positive way. 15 people indicated with 14 people answered with a 4 or 5, and then 1 person with a 3. So 15 altogether with a 3, 4, and 5 said that they learned something new about anti-Semitism. And then the question, if you chose 3 to 5, what did you learn? And so a couple of answers were the impact on democracy and the need to call out anti-Semitism when I see it. And then people were asked if there were topics that they felt were not addressed, or topics that they would like to be addressed. And so there was a pretty good list for that. So I'm just going to kind of read out some of the things people said. What kind of wording can I use to address when I see anti-Semitism directed toward myself or someone else? What kind of wording can I use to address this? More about the prevalence of anti-Semitism. A number of people were shocked at the prevalence of anti-Semitism in Montgomery County, Maryland, and in the wider arena. But a number of people were like, wow, I didn't realize it was this bad. There were some people who are non-Jewish who wanted to know how to speak to their Jewish friends and acquaintances, how to help their Jewish friends and acquaintances. I thought that was lovely. A number of people wanted to know more about the historic context and the historic manifestation, the current manifestations as stemming from historic context. So of course, a lot of these questions would require like a 3-day seminar, full days. But people were interested and wanted to know more. A few people wanted to know how to talk to children about anti-Semitism. A few teachers said, you know, what, as an educator, how do I, somebody have something? As an educator, what do I do? What kind of schools, what kind of materials can I get? What are some practical suggestions for me in the classroom? There's one person, which I really liked actually, one person said, you know, give me a bulleted list, just bullets. What are some talking points when this comes up, when I see or hear something directed toward me or someone else, give me a list of quick things I can say. I like that. Talking points is the way he put it. There was, you know, a number of comments that were, of course, expressing concerns with how to talk about criticism of Israel as it relates to anti-Semitism. So that, of course, is huge, something that is really we're all dealing with in one way or another. Again, people asking about more historic context. What else can be provided? What else can we do? So that's kind of the summary of the comments that were made.
Very helpful. Thank you. So does anybody have any questions?
Any thoughts or questions? You know, so
go ahead, Nathaniel.
Yeah, I'm curious if Barbara or AJC, and in general, has any recommendations about how we should move forward with this information. I don't know if that's something that you would have.
So so that's a great question. Naomi was asking me the same thing, and sure, yeah. So so I'm here representing actually Sue Weiss, who is kind of much more hands-on with what is available. So I gave her a quick text. She's going out of town in the morning and she's busy tonight, and so I didn't want to, you know, call her, but I gave her a text and asked her, you know, what about, do we have some of these? Do we have some talking points? Do we have some organized materials? I personally have materials on talking to children, but it's not representing AJC. And so Sue responded and said, sure, we have some of those things, but I don't have the details on that. I will certainly get back to you. I think there is a pretty good wealth of materials at AJC, and as you see, the presentations are really good. They're really very impressive.
So I've had conversations with Sue, and AJC does get very active in May to highlight the American Jewish History Month and to
Yes.
work with libraries, and they have a protocol, and they have succeeded in doing so in some of our local libraries.
Mhm.
And so I have spoken to her about coaching me and anybody else in the task force about approaching that. They have a form invitation, and they have a format they have books that they can recommend,
Yes.
etc. So this is something that AJC really does sponsor and recommend. So that is one thing. So materials, to the extent that they answer these questions, I think is one way we can go forward. And
Mhm.
I can work with Sue and see if we can, as long as she has that list of what people want, and
Yes.
see if she can come up with things that AJC might do.
Mhm.
And if you have something for teachers, I know that
Mhm.
Montgomery County requires its teachers to learn about dealing with anti-Semitism in the classroom, but that may not reach everybody in private schools and so on.
Right.
So
Mhm.
we can probably go forward, but bullet points would be great.
Yeah.
We have our own space on our website
Mhm.
where people can go, and we've already listed a whole bunch of resources, and people can go to that pocket in the website, and we can make them aware that anytime they encounter something in the neighborhood or elsewhere,
Mhm.
they should go to our space and they might find it there. So
Yeah, I was looking at the website just before the meeting. It's very well done.
okay, thank you for
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice resource. I think that it seemed to me that that the presentation on the 16th, what this kind of thing serves to do is to, even if it's so well put together that there's always new things to learn. I learn every time I watch one of these presentations. Even if I see it again, I learn because they're so intelligently put together. And I think that gathering people to talk about this topic brings it to the light of one's awareness. It raises awareness, even if we are familiar with the material, it brings it to the forefront of consciousness and awareness, and allows for dialogue and asking questions like, what should I say?
Right.
Should I respond to that? What is my part here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even if it's only sympathy for what you're going through as a Jewish person right now, would be a few comforting words, being aware that we're going through these hard times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all have experienced how meaningful it is when non-Jewish friends reach out and say, how are you doing?
Right.
How awful. This is awful. How are you doing?
Right.
Or how it feels when people don't.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that we at one point touched on is the notion of encouraging our Jewish neighbors to invite their non-Jewish neighbors to a Shabbat dinner, to a Pesach dinner, or Hanukkah, to share our culture with them. And that can be done in a very informal way without anybody committing to it or required to do it, but it could be a habit that we might want to follow over time to engage our non-Jewish neighbors.
Actually, I have a suggestion about that. So my son lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and there's been a lot going on there with universities, and there's just so much has happened, and it's filtered down in many ways into everyday life and on the streets and in the schools. There have been many incidents. So he belongs to a shul called the Tremont Street Shul. And his shul, it's a small minyan, and his shul got together with the local Lutheran church and the Islamic Society of Boston. So the mosque, the Lutheran church, and the shul. And together they put out a statement following October 7th. And I think that had a lot of impact because it was from 3 houses of worship of different religions.
Yeah, those kinds of relationships for any of us who belong to a shul, to encourage a partnership.
Yeah,
And there are shuls that are actually housed in a church. So they've already developed a kind of
Developed
relationship
that,
to
yeah.
start with. Yeah, yeah. But I think partnering with a mosque is a very intriguing idea. Yeah,
yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah.
Any more thoughts or questions as far as the survey itself?
I have a question. This is Marty. And
Hi,
Barbara,
Marty.
thank you for being here tonight. This is very informative. And I
Great.
thought that the webinar was just terrific, by the way.
Yeah.
And that statement that the 3 put out there, do you have a copy of that? Is that something that we could put on our resource list?
I have it. I asked my son. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. But I would ask him, would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Let me read it to you. And I'm sure it'd be fine, but because it's not mine, I would ask him first. And I'm sure he'd be fine with it, but you always ask. So it's short enough for me to share with you. AOL, here we go.
Take your time.
Okay. Now I think this was shortly after the massacre, the Hamas massacre. Dear friends, and this is on the letterhead of the Tremont Street Shul in Cambridge. Dear friends, we're coming together at a very troubled time to acknowledge each other and the need to build up our local community. We recognize the equal value of Muslim and Jewish lives and the tragedy inherent in the loss of every innocent life. As we begin to meet this moment together, it is important to remember that our neighbors in Cambridge are individuals deserving of dignity and respect. While we cannot bring back those already lost in this tragic conflict, we can share our grief and we can ensure that our community is safe and welcoming. We all have a responsibility to call out discrimination, prejudice, and hostile or hateful language, whether directed at Muslims or Jews. We should be very careful to express our disagreements respectfully, even if someone is saying something we find hurtful, and even when we disagree about the appropriate solution to the conflict. Our strength as a community lies in our connections with each other. By building a resilient and caring local community, we will create the strength necessary for us to do what we can do to make the world a better place. As leaders at Temple Beth Shalom of Cambridge, the Islamic Society of Boston, and Faith Lutheran, we ask our communities to continue to support our commitment to being good neighbors. In difficult times like this, our friendship is most tested and most important. B'Shalom, Sa'alam, to peace. Faith Lutheran Church, Islamic Society of Boston, Tremont Street Shul.
Wow, I find that absolutely beautiful and very moving, very powerful. Thank you for reading it.
Sure. I'm happy to send it. I'll just ask permission.
Okay.
I would
thank
love to
you.
see that on our website. I truly would. I
Yeah.
think that's a beautiful statement and exactly what this task force is trying to accomplish, which is to build community trust and connection,
Yes.
even in these hard times, especially in these hard times.
Especially in these hard times, because the splintering is so dangerous and so harmful to us, to us
To all of us,
Never-
to all of us.
in
Yeah.
every way. And so the outreach, again, I think this was written shortly after the massacre, within now things have just deteriorated so much, and maybe they would still write it because there have been so many incidents in that area everywhere, but particularly up there in anti-Semitic, anti-Islamic. And so, I mean, I would love to see, I'd be thrilled for that to be on your website. I can let you know tomorrow, actually. And if that's a go, I'll send it to Naomi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very beautiful, powerful statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody else on the call like to say anything about Barbara's presentation, going forward, suggestions? What captures your mind?
Well, the thing I remember most striking me, I feel like, we as a task force are fairly well informed about Jewish history in the United States and to some extent, politics in the Middle East. I mean, this is not your average group off the street. These are people who care and pay attention and know quite a bit. And
Yes.
yet I think that we learned something, I know I did, from that. One of the things I found most effective about the presentation was the point that all of these different hate groups, the Aryan nation groups and all these right-wing
Mhm.
neo-Nazi groups, all of them are anti-Semitic. Some of them are anti-Catholic, some of them are anti-Black, some of them are anti-woman, but the one thing that they all have in common is they're all anti-Jewish. And
Yes.
I thought that was really striking. That was data from, I think, the Southern Poverty Law Center's
Yeah.
research on hate groups. And I found that really just so striking because I pay attention to this stuff, but I didn't realize just how universal that component was. And that ties into the point you made, Barbara, about how anti-Semitism affects democracy, which I thought was also a very effective part of the presentation that Sue and God, I'm forgetting the other guy's name.
Alan.
Alan, yeah, that they both did. So again, just some personal feedback. That was really, it got to me. I thought, holy Toledo.
Me too. I think there are very few of us who think about the actual impact on democracy amidst all of the other threats to democracy that are happening right now. That anti-Semitism itself is a threat to democracy. And that's a great point because it's a point that pulls everybody in. That means that you're not Jewish, that your life, there's a degree of risk in your life because of this kind of hatred.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very unifying point.
Right. Any other folks on the task force want to share a word or two?
So I would be glad to get back to you about having this statement on your website and also about what materials are already available to you as far as talking points, materials for teachers, talking to children at home. So those are the main, I think, the resources that would be very helpful. By the way, this is a great group, proactive, and you guys are great. No,
I should mention that there are about 11 or so municipalities in the county that took their cue from the county to make a statement. I think, Michael, you might want to help me with the words, but make a statement that they want to do something about anti-Semitism, but none of them have really gone forward with any kind of establishing task forces or planning any activities. And that's probably one of the reasons that they found our webinar so attractive, because yes, it's something they can do by joining us. So our outreach, I think, was really important. Our mission is to serve our residents, but reaching out to other neighborhoods was also very rewarding. And we probably would have their cooperation in other projects that we might go forward with.
I mean, I'm going to guess that you will. First of all, the turnout, again, you did such a good job bringing people in. We weren't expecting that many people, so it was very impressive. But the fact that you're organized and proactive, and you've got a website. And so people will be drawn to that because then they can join in on that. And so you've already done all the work up front. And I'm going to guess that people will respond to that outreach.
Well, working with you guys has been a pleasure and so very helpful. I really want to thank you. Before you go, I just want to make sure everybody's had their say. If there's anybody else that wants to add to the conversation at the moment.
Thank you, Barbara.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was a pleasure to meet you all, and
Thank
you
you.
know, congratulations on mobilizing and acting in such an impactful way. It's good to know you're out there doing this. So I'll get back to you, Naomi,
Okay,
as to some specifics. And, you know, well, since we're traveling in the same circles, I hope to see you all again.
thank you so much for making the time this
Alrighty.
evening.
Good night,
Yes.
everyone.
Barbara, are
Good
you
night.
still there before you take off?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, this is Jeff Lander. I just want to say one quick, sorry, I'm still in transit, but I just wanted to say magnificent, marvelous job. And I think in all respects, you're a little hard on yourself. You know, 20 responses out of 100 is 20%. And by any survey statistics, that's actually above the curve. So just
Oh, wow.
congratulating you on that.
Yeah.
That's
No, I mean,
50% is hard to reach, but I'm glad that you aspire to it.
well, thank you so much. I mean, I think the 50% mark is more than, thank you so much, Jeff. I think the 50% mark, the meaning of that is that it gives more of a real sense of the group, whereas 20% is, it is impressive because we got the pre and the post from 20 people. So that means they took the time before and after. So that was impressive. In terms of sort of reading the group, we would want more, but we were very happy to get that many. Yes.
Exactly, and I do want to just take that time. I know Naomi also. Naomi has been, mentioned the idea there's 20 from Martin's Editions and then 80 from the community, but really expressing the sentiment that you expressed at the beginning. I mean, 100 and not knowing exactly how many folks were per screen is really a tremendous showing.
Tremendous.
And congratulations. And I do hope that the task force considers the idea of how, there may continue to be these events given the world and the geopolitical context and also what's going on locally, that this was a real amazing service and event, and hope to see more like it.
Yeah, I think people are craving the sense of community and the forum to be together and to talk about this. And so this really was a great service to people. It was a great thing you organized. So agreed
Couldn't have done it without you and without Sue and
Yeah.
Alan, and now
Yes.
without you. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody.
Anybody else want to chime in before
Oh,
we
yeah.
let Barbara go?
Jessica. Oh, you're on mute.
And thank you. Thank you so much, Barbara. We don't want to take any more of your time. Thank
Oh,
you so
I'm fine.
much.
Thank you so much. Okay, everyone. Be well. Bye.
Be well. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so going on to the next steps. Of all the things we have discussed and any other things that we want to add is, let's start a list of things that some of us are already interested in and add to it, and then ask our neighbors if they want to join us in those activities. So the library displays one idea. Shabbat services, to the extent that people want to do it, they don't even have to tell us, with neighbors. Trips to the Holocaust Museum or the museum, the Capitol, the Jewish Capitol
Capitol
Museum.
Jewish Museum.
Say it again.
Capitol Jewish Museum.
Capitol Museum, yeah.
Jewish.
Can we put the museum information out there as just sort of What are their programs? What are their hours? What are their locations? Is that
Sure,
something
that
we
could
can
be a
put on the website?
resource. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that, and highlight again a short, maybe just a paragraph in the newsletter next month. Jessica, what do you think? Because you were the one who came with the idea of museums, and I thought it was fantastic back when you first mentioned it. I like that idea so much.
Thank you, Marty. I mean, I'm happy to publicize it wherever. I mean, I think people know about the Holocaust Museum, at least I hope they do. The Capital Jewish Museum is relatively new, and I don't think it's as known. But I'm having
Yeah.
a hard time speaking. I'm not feeling really great, so I'm gonna
I
try to
understand.
keep my breath.
Thank you. Does anybody know about the Visionary Museum and the exhibit that's there? I can't remember exactly what it's called, but one of our neighbors, her mother stitched crochet, I think it is, a series of scenes that in the most colorful, beautiful ways that tell the story of what happened in her village in Poland when the Nazis came and took away her family. And she and her sister survived by hiding in the farms and working there until they were liberated. Does anybody know about that story?
Let's
Uh,
publicize that. Boy,
oh my
that
God.
sounds
I
wonderful.
actually want to organize a trip there. It's a schlep, but it's an exhibit that's been all around the world, and it's profound. It's very moving. I wish I could remember the name of it, but I will share that with all of you.
Esther and the Dream of One Loving Human Family.
Yes, have you seen it, Nathaniel?
No, I've never heard of it. I was just looking it up on the website right now.
Yeah, yeah. Could you send me that link?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's put that on our website again. I think it's a resource. And if there's some kind of video about the exhibit that you're looking at, Nate, I mean, even if we can't get actually to the exhibit per se, we could certainly have something online that people could see if there's an online summary of it or about it, or,
Yeah,
I think that we really have a resource function here. And I just
yeah,
really encourage us to put, I mean, that sounds so wonderful. My own Polish family fled, in 1905, not from a pogrom, but from other uh, oppression. And these are stories. We talked when we first got together back in the fall. We talked about sharing our personal family stories.
yeah,
And, I think that I would still encourage people to do maybe, a short, couple paragraphs on that. Because we have permission to put things in the VMA newsletter, and that's a real opportunity again to do a lot of community connection at the most personal level, which is what reaches people, that
right.
human level,
Yeah.
opposed to
So
arguments about war.
I know the daughter of this artist and the granddaughter who used to go to high school BCC with my son. So if we ever wanted to do a trip to the Visionary Museum with a group of people, we can probably get a very wonderful docent to take us around. Yeah, that's not a well-known exhibit. I first saw it at the Polish embassy, interestingly enough. Yeah. So exhibits, museum trips. Any other ideas that we can put forward to the community that people might join us in, that you guys want to spearhead? So what do you think about doing a summary of what we learned from the webinar as part of an article in one of the next newsletters, and then inviting people to join us in some of these activities? And if no one else volunteers, then I will be the point person. And if we get a big response, I may ask for help. for example, if we succeed in having a library exhibit, would any of you be interested in reading, doing a reading for children? Or getting someone to do the reading for children?
I'd be happy to read to kids.
Good. That would be wonderful. We'll have to find some age-appropriate books. But if we can get kids engaged in these topics, it would really be, I think, a real accomplishment. I never quite know when to introduce what topic to kids, and I think that's something we could all. I have grandchildren who are 10 and 14, and I still don't know when to start talking to them about my grandparents and the Holocaust. So we can all learn from that. And having a reading at the Chevy Chase Library be a wonderful accomplishment.
The Holocaust Museum has a whole section dedicated specifically to children, and they have a lot of books and guidelines about, you probably know this, Naomi, about what and when to read it. So
Yeah,
good resource for us to look at as well.
good. Yeah. I actually know someone who volunteers there, and he teaches at Osho Lifelong Learning about the Holocaust. And so I'll ask him to direct us to some specific. It's a very overwhelming place, so we have to pick and choose what to direct people to.
There's a series for teenagers. There's 2 books by Aronica Siegel that I used to buy as bar mitzvah presents. And the girls are in Budapest when the Nazis come. And these 2 sisters survive, not much the family does, and they go to Sweden after. And it's very accessible. Ever read Kantantan? I mean, if it's a little kids, it doesn't have to be about the Holocaust. It's Israeli. Naomi. He was a little boy the size of a thumb. He gets lost in a vat of noodle pudding or something. It's a very cute series.
Well, I think it would be good for us to recommend those to the Chevy Chase Library and to have a reading of one of those books.
You know, there's a monthly, I think a friend of mine subscribes for her grandchildren. There's a monthly Jewish book group for children.
It's called the
wow.
PJ Library.
What is it?
The PJ Library through the Jewish.
Yeah.
Oh, PJ, yeah.
Let's connect to that. And Helen, give Naomi the names of those 2 books,
Sure.
if you would, please.
I'm going to ask Barbara if she would send us a written version of her presentation. It might be too much work for her, but I think it would be good to summarize it for our village residents. Nathaniel, I am loath to ask you to do any more work, but I'm wondering if you'd be willing to write an update article for the newsletter.
Sure, I'll do my best.
Okay, you're a resident writer. I don't know if anybody has heard me say I've read his father's writings, so it's in his DNA.
Hey,
I'll work with you on it.
okay, sounds good.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, I think we owe the village residents an update, and we can include questions as to what other things people want to
Can we
engage
get the
in.
written data from the survey from AJC?
That's what I'm going to ask for.
Okay.
Yeah, I did take some notes, but yeah, it'd be good to get the written version, and that'll help us write the article. And we can use the occasion to ask what else people want to do. I'm very committed to keep going in one way or another. I don't think this is a one-time thing, but I don't think we need to be tied down to a task force. We can do this more informally, and that allows us to meet, as I said before, whenever we need to, and work together in twosomes or in a group. So we owe the council a report. We can tell them what we've accomplished, perhaps after the May library events. And by June, we can submit a report of our accomplishments. And then I think we can be free to go on and work together as we have time, because I know that some of you have had changes in your life when you can't attend every meeting, even though we really don't meet that often. But life has demanded more of your time, and I respect that. So I think that we can do things in a more ad hoc way, depending on our interest and time availability. What do you think about that approach, everyone?
Makes sense to me.
That's a good
And
approach.
Jessica, I have to ask you, what kind of dog is that? It's a beautiful dog.
Thank you. She's a multi-poo.
A multi-poo, cute as could be.
Thank you, Marty.
So, I'm sorry, Marty, before you,
I got distracted. I'm sorry.
okay,
Yes, I agree. I
What-
agree with you. With you
what-
know me. I
yeah,
like the
what-
plan of going forward and more informally after June when we disband as a task force. You know, the webpage will still stay up, right?
Yeah.
After June.
yeah, why not? Yeah. What does everyone else think?
I think that's a good idea. I took an Ollie class and it became an independent short story group that lasted for like 2 months. I don't for a long time, and people
Yeah.
analyzed short stories by themselves. So sure, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
great.
And we can always engage you and Marty, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
You know where to
Yeah.
find me.
yeah. I'm talking about her husband. Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, the
Yeah.
other Marty.
Saving Israel now. Naomi, he's got this group that came out of Addis, but they've got this sign-on letter. You'll get it. It's going out around the country
oh,
about,
really?
yeah, moving forward in Israel. He feels
Oh,
like
really?
he has to do something. Yeah,
Yeah, gotta
Um,
do something. Yeah, I'm feeling helpless about Israel right now.
right. That's right.
Nathaniel, what's your situation in Israel? Are you going there?
He's on mute. Did you listen?
He may have
Nathan.
stepped away for a moment to use the restroom, I'm guessing, but I think that,
Okay. Okay,
I think that what you suggested, Naomi, is a good idea.
okay. Leah, what do you think?
Yep, I'm in accordance as well.
Good, okay. I know you have a lot of interest in the group and the work that we do, and the other thing I was thinking, by the way, if we have enough energy and interest, we can do quote unquote religious things without having to be tied to the rule of separation of state and religion, state and church. So if we want to do a Hanukkah party next year, we could do it on our own if we have the energy to do it and the commitment. So it gives us some freedom to work together. Yeah.
And Nomi, you're willing to do the committee reports to the council
Oh,
at the next
absolutely.
council meeting at the end.
Yeah.
Can we just
Oh,
designate Nomi to do those? Do we need a committee vote to designate Nomi to do all further reports for us? Do we want to give her that formal authority or just assume it?
I can't vote.
That Marty's motion regarding Naomi having that power capacity.
I move that we authorize Nomi to do our committee reports from now through June. Is there a second?
I second.
Jessica seconds. Okay. Nomi, discussion?
Yeah. Discussion.
willing to-
I don't tell my husband that I'm committing myself to more work. He's begging me to stop. We are supposedly on vacation. But yes, I want to see this through. And I do want to do the library project very much. So yes, I'll work with Nathaniel on an article for the newsletter, which will be essentially a part of our report. You know, what have we learned from the webinar and what things people might want to participate in. And once we hear from the community, we can report on that. And then we can each choose what to work on after June.
Thank you, Nomi.
Thank
Let's call the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
I,
I,
Okay, we've got 4 out of 4. Okay, thank you. And thank you very much, Nomi.
Thank you.
it's, yeah, it's the least I can do, sitting here all the way far away from my mother country. Yeah. I tell people that I've never felt more Jewish because of the siege that I'm feeling under siege. Yeah. So, do we have any other business? Is there anything else that people want to say or do or add to our agenda today? It's 9:31 and I'm always aiming for an hour, no more than an hour meeting.
Naomi, this
So-
is Michael. I did have one comment. At the end of the year, the fiscal year, so in June, I was hoping to put together a annual report of all the things the village accomplished this year.
Uh-huh.
And this committee being one of them. And so I'm not sure if your monthly report in June could be a written report, or maybe we can compile some of the different things that you have done, the different articles and the website that has all the resources
Okay.
on it. And just
Yeah.
kind of put that in a document along with all the other committees and what everyone's done. So
Sure, I'll be happy to work with you on the timeline. You probably, when is your report due?
I'm gonna, this is just my effort to do this, to kind of compile all the different reports from all the different committees. So by the end of the year, which is the end of June.
Okay, yeah, that comports, that complies with our agenda, with our schedule. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be done at the end of May with the library project. We'll have something to say about that. And I'm thinking that in early June, we will, I'll submit a report because I actually am going away in mid-June, so,
Okay.
okay.
I think it'd be great to have something kind of memorialize all the stuff that's been done and even the conversations that have been had, so that we can kind of point back to that and say, we did do something. We had a lot of really meaningful conversations and you've held a lot of meetings and been really diligent. So we want to record that for sure.
Good, thank you. That would be my honor, actually. Okay, if I don't hear any other comments, anything else that we want to discuss, I'm gonna give you a moment of silence to do that. And if I don't hear that, I will call for closing the meeting. If anybody wants.
Thank you, Nomi. Thank you, Michael. Thank you to all the task force members. Thank you to Helen for being such a good neighbor.
Thank you for inviting me.
I motion to adjourn.
Thank
Second.
you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourning at
Okay.
9:33 p.m.